Oh, I think we're live on Facebook now. How are you all? I hope you're very well. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm having a lovely day because I'm here with the one and only Aaron from HeadCount.
Hi, and I'm having a wonderful day because I'm here with the one and only Aly from Papa Teach Me. It's been years since I've gotten to call him Papa, and I'm excited to do it again.
That's a special name for me. That's just for us, though. So, yes, today we're going to talk about all things, mainly the USA and politics and music, most of all. So if you have any questions about music, politics, or the USA in general, write them in the comments. We're getting a few people in already. May, hello. Tin, hello. Din, hello. Abdel, Bagchit, nice to have you all watching. Facebook questions, we'll get them. YouTube questions, we'll get them a lot easier. So we're going to start with a few questions. We've got Austria and France watching. Japan. Hi, Japan. And Dubai. People from everywhere.
Oh, Fabio from Brazil. Welcome, Fabio. Thank you for the Facebook comment.
Thank you. So, we've kicked off May. The obvious question, what do you think of Trump? Should we start with that, or should we lead into that? I feel like that's a...
Well, I mean, so I'll start out. Why not?
Are you allowed to... Maybe introduce yourself, what you do first.
Welcome, world. I am Aaron, born and raised in New York City, the best city in the world. If it's not, please let me know. So I work for HeadCount. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, which means we exist outside of the government. We don't take sides with either side, and we go to concerts and music festivals, and we register people to vote. So we go out, we find people where they're having fun, we have a clipboard, and we say, hey, would you like to register to vote? Or are you registered to vote? And usually they say yes, and then I high five them and I say good job. I can high five you right now. Awesome. But if you're not registered to vote, I can help you fill out the form and register you to vote. So,
how hard is it to register to vote? Is it literally filling out a form?
I wish I brought it with me. In the state of New York, the form's actually pretty simple. It shouldn't take you more than 2 minutes to fill out. You don't need a form of ID. That's how easy it is to register. Yes, it takes about 2 minutes. In some states, the form of identification they need is not the federal form, is a state form, is your state driver's license number, and nobody has that one memorized, but we all have, in America, virtually everybody over 20 that has a job has their social security number memorized. Right. And in about 40 states, all you need to register to vote is essentially your name, your address, your date of birth, and the last four of social. So you fill that out.
Social security number.
Social security, yes.
We don't have that in England. The social security number, we don't.
Well, do you have a
we have
federal?
A national insurance.
Yes, your insurance. Exactly. Except Social Security is our old people insurance, not our health insurance.
Right.
Because we don't have health insurance in this country. Well, we do, but not as much as you guys do.
You have a very different system.
Very, very different.
So then, to answer May's question, Russia is bae. Brilliant comment. To answer May's previous question, what do you think of Trump? Are you allowed to... Because you said you're non-partisan.
Non-partisan, yes.
So are you allowed to give opinions publicly?
So it's complicated. I'll say a lot of things about Trump. I have obviously my own... I don't know if intense is the right word. I have my own personal beliefs about Donald Trump, but I'm not going to talk about my personal opinion of his policies. That is something that might interfere with my ability to do my job, because I want everybody to vote, not just the people who agree with me to vote. Professionally,
That's very important.
Professionally speaking.
Yeah.
I think the gamble is that theoretically, if everybody votes, I think we'll have a healthier system, and I think we can all want a healthier system. But let's go to Donald Trump. And so I think I'm going to step away from the personal opinions on it and just talk about him as a politician. And it's revolutionary, and it's just really, really exciting in a lot of ways as a student of politics to see what he's doing with social media and the way that he goes and kind of spreads his message. So if you follow Donald Trump, you're getting a different message from him depending on the medium. So if you follow him on Twitter, you're seeing one thing, which is different than he's doing when he sends his emails to you. And if you watch Fox News, you're hearing a third set of information from him, Whereas if you read an intellectual conservative paper that he's friendly with, you'll get a fourth set of things. And it's really this incredible micro-targeting, segmenting of the population to kind of deliver a message in different ways. And I think if you look at the history of politics, it's really a history of media. I mean, America, we had our revolution soon after the printing press. And I don't know if you study Thomas Paine at all, but he was a writer who wrote Common Sense, which was a leaflet that essentially started the American Revolution. And it was because of the printing press that this happened. And then you see kind of developments through the 19th century with the telegram and the telegraph. But then the real change happens with mass communication with the radio. And as we saw in the beginning of the 20th century with this new medium, we had incredible volatility, incredible changes, and it's just all these different leaders rising to power in different ways because of this new, very sexy medium. Like, think about it. You weren't able to hear your leaders' voices up until, like, 1920.
So then Twitter is a good thing for him to use?
I mean, what's your definition of good?
Good for him.
Oh,
to
yeah.
serve his purposes, I mean, we've seen, he's president now.
Yeah.
That has served him quite well.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, I mean...
Going forward,
brilliant. It depends. A lot of people have criticized his and said it's unpresidential the way he uses Twitter. But I think what America said in 2016 is we don't want presidential. We've had presidential. We want something very, very different. And I think in a lot of people, there's a certain satisfaction. If you're a believer already, if you're a supporter, you're getting all this communications from him that's so much different than what the non-supporters get. So if you're a supporter and you're getting Donald Trump emails, you're getting an email every single day, 2 or 3 every day, asking for money for his 2020 campaign and telling you his view of what's going on in the world.
even though he's president, he's now campaigning for 2020.
Yes, it's the earliest anyone has ever declared their presidency, so he has already declared. Donald Trump has declared his candidacy. He's already fundraising. He's going to have a very impressive war chest and have a lot of money soon.
Crikey.
Yes, David, I do have an American accent.
Yes, he's a professional New Yorker. So you may have noticed he has a different accent to me. Brazil. Hello, Brazil. All right, Brazil. You asked for a Cockney accent, so there's you. Alex, hey. Let's see. We're asking to be speaking a bit slower.
So if you guys have never been to New York, New Yorkers have a negative reputation for speaking very, very fast. I apologize. Also, somebody on Facebook asked us to look at the camera. We can look at each other later. We can. So we'll look at the camera. We'll look at both cameras because we're on Facebook and YouTube right now.
Trying to divide up our time. We're like divorced parents trying to take care of our children.
Is the children the video?
Yes.
Nice. We're doing a good job, I think.
Indonesia, you're up. It's quite late for you, I think, Indonesia. Hello. Tunisia. Hello. Italy. Awesome. Hello.
Oh, Belarus. We know where Belarus is.
I know exactly where Belarus is. Boob from Algeria. Hello. How are you? Kyrgyzstan. Wow, many different people here. Some saying you're not speaking that fast. Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad speaks faster. We look like twin brothers. Yes, only he stole my hair.
A British accent, an English accent, I don't know if it's more polite, but in America it sounds smarter. So in America, somebody asked about a British accent versus the American accent. I think the American accent, we sound like we're a bunch of country bumpkins. I don't know but so it's the British one. That's high society. That's the Queen's English. That's a phrase. The Queen's English is a phrase to describe the British accent, the English accent.
You know who kind of sounds English? Frasier.
Oh yes. So,
if you've ever seen the TV show Frasier.
So there's what's known in America as the transatlantic accent, which is an accent that intellectuals have, professors, politicians, newscasters of sorts, and it lends an air of gravitas, of weight, of intelligence to it, and it's almost a halfway between English and American accent.
Can you do it?
No. I was gonna try. I mean, I can't do any accents. But it's a very haughty accent. It's slow and deliberate, and it's my chin is up. I am looking down upon you, because when I went to boarding school, I learned how to speak English properly. Whereas somebody like Aaron went to public schools in New York, and he didn't learn. I did not learn how to speak that way. I don't have my chin up when I speak. I don't have a very airy accent. I have a very man on the street accent.
But this transatlantic accent, it's a very interesting. If you see any old movie, from the 50s, a movie from the 1950s, Cary Grant, not exactly.
I don't really watch
Audrey
movies,
Hepburn.
but it is, and a lot of people, and it was kind of the dominant accent. And this actually leads us back to Trump, if we want to discuss accents, actually, because Donald Trump has a very New York accent. I don't know if you're familiar or aware, if you've heard Donald Trump speak. He does not speak like most Americans.
Can you give an example of New York?
Accent? Donald Trump, use guys. Donald Trump, he drops the R's. Are you kidding me? I'm the best. I'm the least racist person you've ever met. And it's the dropping the R's, and it's in a certain way it sounds vulgar to a native English speaker, at least to an American, that accent. And historically our presidents came from the upper crust, and those were people who spoke with the transatlantic, almost English accent. Whereas we saw a massive shift in the second half of the 20th century, anti-intellectualism, moving away from that accent and moving towards a more popular accent. And so Donald Trump sounds like a guy who would sell me perfume in a mall. And not good, nothing against that. He's my people. It's just he sounds like that guy. He's a salesman. He's got that thing. Though. But it's not presidential. Right. But and every part of America has that own local, almost vulgar accent of the guy who sounds like he's going to sell you something. And I think,
but he is. I mean, he's a salesman.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Is that where it comes from?
Exactly.
His style of speaking?
His style of speaking. Big league. So this is actually something that really upset me as a New Yorker. Everybody's been making fun of Donald Trump for using the word bigly. B-I-G-L-Y. Donald Trump does not use the word bigly. Donald Trump uses the word big league, which is a baseball reference referring to the top baseball league, the big league. So if something's huge, that's big league. And or not huge, but huge. He uses
it a lot, right?
Yeah, he uses it a lot. But
what would be an example sentence of using big league?
I make the most money. My businesses, they're big league. The idea being that he's not amateur, that he's not. Bush League is the alternative. So Bush League is where... Exactly. Bush League refers to the league that the bad baseball players are in, whereas Big League is where the good baseball players are. So Donald Trump's businesses, his hotels, Big League. The Hiltons, Bush League.
I've heard of Bush League. That's answered. I'm learning English with everyone else today. So I've seen two questions. One, are you actually Jesus?
I am Jewish.
So yes, then, basically.
Pretty much. And I'll let you decide.
What's the other one? Found it somewhere. Can Aaron do a Cockney accent? Can you do an English accent?
Governor.
Perfect.
That's it. I'm really bad at accents. Ooh, what part of New York am I from? I'm from New York City.
That's Paulina.
Paulina. I grew up in the Bronx. New York City has 5 boroughs. The Bronx is where rap music was invented, and where the New York Yankees play baseball. I currently live in Queens, which is where our airports are, and where Eddie Murphy goes in Coming to America to find his queen. Great film.
Okay, someone's saying we should do a quick accent tag, and then we'll take some more questions. Yeah, okay. First of all, I would say, what's the pill you take in the morning? You can have a C, or a D, an E.
Vitamin.
So I would say vitamin.
Vitamin?
Vitamin. When you want to check your reflection, what do you look in?
The mirror.
Oh, you say it much more like 2 syllables. I've heard people say mirror.
Well, also, this is like one of those words as a New Yorker, I get insecure saying, because, like, a lot, I might say, if I lapse into the traditional New York accent, I might say mirror.
That's traditional?
I don't know if not
I have no idea.
But yeah, mirror, and so that's a word that I'll say, mirror, coffee. I will go out of my way to say coffee, whereas a traditional New Yorker might say coffee.
I love the way New Yorkers say
Coffee. Water.
Teach me how to say that.
Coffee. So it's...
Coffee.
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 You want some coffee in the morning.
It has like a or.
Coffee. And it's this combination Italian, Yiddish influence on the way we speak English. So, quick history lesson. New York, if you look at most of America, the immigrants who came and spoke English first were English or Irish or Scottish or German. And they brought their Protestant values, they brought a lot of things to most of America. New York City, however, was first colonized by the Dutch, and then the dominant immigrant groups that came to form the New York accent were Irish, Italian, and Eastern European Jews and Russians. So we speak English very differently than other places do. Because of its mix. Because of the mix. So an example of that will be a suburb of New York, Long Island. 2 words, Long Island. However, if you're from the island, the way you would pronounce it is Long Island, almost as if it's 2 words, Long Island, which is almost like this, which is supposedly an Italian influence, like the idea of Long Island. So it's Long Island, whereas if you were to read it, you would say Long Island.
Long Island. But we do that as well. We take like the last consonant sound, shove it on the next word.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Long Island. But not as much. I guess it's more pronounced with you.
Yeah, it's Long Island.
Right.
And that's how you know. And also they're weird English. It's normally when you're somewhere, you're in a place, but with Long Island, you're on it. So it's you're on Long Island. Instead of I'm in New York City, I would never say I'm on New York City. But if I were to visit somebody out east on Long Island, I would say I'm on Long Island, not in Long Island.
Because it's an island.
Yes, I guess so.
Prepositions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Someone's asking, how do you say jewelry? I say jewelry.
I say jewelry.
I don't know. It's like, dude, it's the same.
It's the same. Nice.
Wow, we've got something in common. It's cool. People liked how you said coffee.
They like coffee?
Do you also say, with other, coffee. So other sounds.
Water.
Dog. How do you say dog?
Dog.
What would be like
Dog.
That sounds amazing.
Woof woof.
Hot dog.
Hot dog. Hot dog.
It sounds amazing.
A dirty water hot dog.
Definitely in pig. Oh, I don't know that one. Water. Water.
I say water, but in New York, some people might say warder, almost as if it's spelled W-O-R-D-E-R.
Wow.
So it's like in Philadelphia, which has a similar but not exactly the same accent, they have a frozen treat called ice water. Ice water.
That's a treat?
It's like Italian ices, but they call it ice water for some reason in Philly.
Isn't it just an ice cube?
Well, it's flavored.
Oh,
it's got syrup in it. It's not just, it's called, but I believe it's called ice water. And it's like in Philly, they'll say ice water. I once was on a date and I said water the wrong way, and she I don't think that ended the date, but I'm single.
You never saw her again after?
No, I don't think so, no.
Because of the way you say water.
Exactly. It's dangerous being a New Yorker.
Which is the most difficult accent to understand or attempt?
Oh my god. Okay, so here's a very fun accent that we have in America that I legitimately cannot understand. So if you're going to give me an English speaker from everywhere in the world, I can hear it except Louisiana. And I'm not talking about New Orleans itself, so New Orleans.
How do you pronounce New Orleans?
Nolans is how you would say it if you're from New Orleans. So it's really French. You combine it.
How do we say it?
New Orleans.
And how do they say it?
Nolans. Which is there's another place.
Love it.
The city Louisville, they would say Louville. But back to New Orleans, and it's not New Orleans itself, but it's about an hour, 2 hours north. There's this Cajun Creole. So the Cajuns were were French settlers who lived in Arcadia in Canada, who after the French and English War, they lost on the Plains of Abraham and had to migrate south to their cousins in Louisiana. And it's this very French, and it's, oh man, you sound like this, you sound like Jumbo. Like, what's the Adam Sandler movie? where he plays a football player.
Waterboy.
Waterboy, exactly. So it's that accent of the Waterboy, and like that's not like, oh man, it sounds like mouthful of beans. Oh man,
Like a heavy mumble.
I have mumble. And it's like the French thing where you drop syllables at the end of words, but like it seems like you drop syllables at the front of them too.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to say a sentence. Try and say it in Narlands.
Well, it wouldn't be Nolans, it would be an hour, because people in the city speak fine. Not to say that the people an hour outside of it don't speak fine, but I can't understand
You kind of just
them.
said that.
It's tough.
There's no one from Narlands watching.
Okay.
It's fine.
It's a tough. I mean, so the way I got into this accent, or learned about it, was I would play a sports video game online, and I would have the headset so I could talk trash and let everybody know I slept with their mother, and then
As you should.
I would exactly, and then I would play against a lot of fans of Louisiana State, and I would get them on the line. And literally, God knows which of my relatives they felt like they were sleeping with because I could not understand a word they were saying.
Okay, well, in that case, we'll move on to one person, Taylor Gang, saying you're quite cool for an American.
Americans invented cool.
Actually, I think I have to agree. Americans are... the British idea of Americans is you guys are our cooler brother.
We'll take it. Like your
It's
cooler
like
younger cousin?
We can't have... Like, your style and coolness. A British person will never be able to be that, I don't know, open and free and happy.
Oh, and with us, it's we'll never be able to be as professional and smart as you guys.
You don't have to throw the compliment back. That was a freebie.
Okay, sorry, I'll take it.
freebie.
Yeah, we are cooler.
So the next one, the word iron, as in to iron your clothes or the material iron. I pronounce it iron.
Iron?
Yeah.
It's very similar, but more of an R. So I often say my name, Aaron. But often, like, I'd say 1 out of every 40 times I say Aaron, somebody hears Iron, which would be a really cool nickname. Iron. I guess.
Is iron coming out tonight? Oh yeah, iron's coming out. You know what happens when iron comes out? We get wasted.
Yeah.
Can you pronounce that word? Now, in British English, we actually say lieutenant.
With a F? There's a lieutenant?
I think traditionally we say lieutenant.
Oh, wow. Lieutenant. We would say lieutenant.
As in the army
The
rank,
army position, LT.
lieutenant.
Yeah, lieutenant.
However, traditionally in the army, we would say lieutenant.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not in the army. So
Me
I don't...
neither.
Okay, good. Neither of us are. I don't know what I would say. I would say lieutenant. I wouldn't be in the army. I would have to get a haircut. And that sounds exhausting.
Who needs that? Who needs short hair?
No. Have you thought about growing it out?
I was waiting for you to get that. I would love to. I miss having hair. Aaron, you're so cool. Iron is your new name.
Hi, Adriana.
There was another really cool question.
Ooh, that's a fun word.
Okay. Dogus is asking, can we say, I would pronounce it, a few different ways. Advertisement or advertisement, although I would say advertisement.
I would say advertisement. And I would laugh at you when you said advertisement. You would be like, did you see that advertisement on TV? And I would be like, oh my God, what happened to the TV?
But then I would never say advertisement. I would say advert.
Oh, we shorten it to ad. We're always in a rush, so it's ad. It's...
Don't have time for 2 syllables.
No, an advert? an advert sounds less scary than an advertisement, but we simply do ad.
2 syllables? Can't have that. Taylor Gang and Marcus are asking us to say the same thing. I would say aluminium.
Aluminum, because we forgot that there was an I in it.
So we pronounce aluminium. You
aluminum. We just call it tin, though. We call it tin. I mean, it's not tin anymore, but it's like tin foil, like aluminum foil.
Oh, are they the same? Oh,
they're not. I don't think they're the same thing.
Mind blown. I didn't even know they were the same thing.
They're not the same thing. I think, I assume tin foil is something that existed in the 1950s that gave you cancer, but, aluminum foil. So when I say tin foil, what I mean is aluminum foil.
Aluminium foil.
Aluminium foil. But as we said earlier, huge rush, 1 syllable.
Magdalena says greetings from Poland. Hello, Magdalena in Poland.
Jak szmasz? Is that how you say hello in Polish?
I have no idea. Magdalena, maybe you can confirm that. How do you say it? What?
No, it's cool. I'm not going to say it again.
Yakshmash?
I don't know.
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay. Ooh, this is a fun one.
Which one? Oh, Alex Muntis is asking us to say...
I would say schedule.
I think traditionally we pronounce it schedule.
Yes.
However, it depends on your mood. But one interesting thing, British English and American English are now doing this because of pop culture, movies, music, many, many reasons, but British and American accents are now merging. For example, I would say schedule. Many words that were only American are now sort of both. However, British words aren't going over to America. This is quite interesting. USA, I'm sorry.
That's so fetch.
Was that from...
That was Mean Girls.
I got the reference.
Yeah, no,
I love Mean Girls.
I know
but,
that.
But that wasn't was that British?
I think the joke in the
So
movie
fetch?
is that she says, that Christian Wiener says, everybody in London is saying fetch. I think that was the joke.
Oh.
And then she stopped trying to make fetch happen. That was a good movie. Yeah, so also what Ali was describing about the our two countries having a more similar accent across the pond. In America, accents are kind of... we're losing our accents in a lot of ways because of TV. Because we all watch the same TV. So we all have that same kind of milquetoast bland Delaware accent, I believe is what, or newscaster accent, sort of, where it's just kind of, it all meshes together and you can understand what you're saying. So in New York, if you grew up in New York in 1920, like my grandma, she says butter. Like butter. Like the thing you spread on bread. Butter. Like butter.
Butter.
But butter, I would say butter. And it's, if you grew up in New York in 1920, you only ever heard other people say butter. But now, if you grow up, even if your parents still say butter, you go on TV and you see them eating, those glamorous TV folk eating butter, and you hear how they pronounce it, and you'll pronounce it the way they pronounce it.
Lots of references to you being Jesus. Jesus, say Jesus.
Jesus. Jesus Cristo? I don't know, Jesus?
Depends where you're from, I suppose.
Exactly.
Ooh, petrol or gas? What do you say?
I say gas.
I say petrol.
But so then there are certain points when I'm not sure what I'm describing where I say petrol to describe the entire energy industry. So it's like if I'm having a discussion about like fracking, fracture, like natural gas, the way we get natural gas in America that may or may not be really, really dangerous, I will describe the entire petrol industry.
But then do you not say petroleum?
Or petroleum sometimes. But when I go to fill up my car at a gas station, I say, I need a tank of gas. Once again, it's shorter, fewer words than petrol. Or not fewer words, fewer syllables.
As is needed. Car park or parking lot?
Parking lot. Or garage, it depends. If it's a covered structure, it's a garage. So in New York, you're mainly going to be parking in garages. And like big, not just a personal garage, but a 500-car garage of sorts. Whereas if it's outside, it's flat, it's usually a parking lot.
So we would only use, and we pronounce it garage, not garage.
Sounds kind of like carriage.
It does sound like carriage, but we would only use garage for one car. Outside your house, and that's yours. Alcatraz official says, can you say, for me, mannequin?
Mannequin, I would say the exact same thing. Yeah, same thing.
Oh, I thought there would be a difference, but apparently there's not.
I was excited. I was hoping there was going to be I was like, ooh, I wonder how he's going to say it. But it was the exact same way as I say it.
A fun word to say. For me, squirrel.
Squirrel?
Oh, you make
Squirrel.
a little squirrel.
Squirrel.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because you said squirrel.
Yeah,
And I say squirrel.
Squirrel. That kind of blends into one syllable. Squirrel.
Like Squirtle, the Pokemon.
Everyone knows
Squirtle.
Everyone knows Pokemon.
Pokemon's the international language.
Someone says he's red. He's so cool.
It's the beard grows in red, yeah.
Wow, but the hair doesn't.
The hair doesn't. It's the best of both worlds. So, like, the 20 years of my life when I might have been bullied for having red hair, I didn't have a beard. And then once, like, I became an adult and people stopped bullying. Well, not true. People still bully. There still are bullies as adults, but, like, it would be less day-to-day taunting for having red hair. And it's great. It's like my brother had red head hair. And he probably got taunted a lot as a child.
I might just start taunting you.
If
you miss being taunted, granted.
No, I don't. Well, usually I have to pay for that. It's a whole different thing. But let's take some questions.
Aaron, say water. Someone else asked you to speak in a Cockney accent. So, let's try this. How would you say water in an English accent?
Water?
That's not bad, but you need to make it a longer sound. Water.
Water.
And a lazy end sound. Water.
Water.
Now make the T a glottal stop. It's like water.
Water?
But or. Water.
Water?
What? Sounds so funny to me. No, you're doing well. Okay, make it a longer sound. Water.
Water.
There you have it.
Alright.
Said water in a wow. And a bonus, alright. Okay, so one thing, the topic of today is mainly music and politics. One question I hear a lot, or one statement is, I'm not interested in politics. I kind of don't think that people are not interested in politics, but I do think that they have a big dislike and a disdain for politicians, because they're all dickheads, usually.
Yes.
But when people say I'm not interested in politics, of course you are, because that means what you can and can't do every day.
I mean, so it's whether or not you're interested in politics. Politics is interested in you. And if somebody's interested in me, or something's interested in me, I try to figure out what's going on. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's the issue is politicians, and it's, at least in America, it's going to be some frumpy old white man who is going to lie to you. Oftentimes a rich frumpy old white man who's going to lie to you. Because there are a lot of poor frumpy old white men who lie to you who we don't really care about. But the rich ones, the narcissists who decide, I want to put my name on a ballot and get voted on, and obviously it's not all men, they're not all liars, they're not all frumpy, and they're not all white. But, so there's something almost detestable, and it's, the idea also that somebody wants something this bad is off-putting. And it's like, if you look at, in the history, there were people who were drafted to be president. Our first president, George Washington, they offered him king, they had to beg him to do this. And it's kind of, the idea of somebody reaching for a job, really wanting it, is kind of gross. And then seeing the hoops they're willing to jump through publicly to do that is even grosser. Especially when they're lying to you.
It does seem that way, that it's more trying to, the politicians now, more trying to serve their own career needs or party needs rather than what's actually good for people, which I imagine drives people away from when they hear, politics, I hate that discussion. But it's kind of an important discussion to have. Exactly.
So when I am out at a music festival talking to somebody and they say, I hate politics, or voting doesn't change anything, or it's all rigged, I say, let me tell you about a little election that happened in the state of Colorado in 2012. It wasn't an election between two rich old white men that are going to lie to you. It was about an issue, and it was whether or not an herb that grows naturally in the ground should be legal for public consumption or not.
And
I saw your face. A
little pause. And, okay, you said a little what?
I said a little herb.
I would say herb. I would pronounce the H.
So actually in English, side note, herb, if I'm going to describe a friend who's kind of a loser, who doesn't go out or is kind of boring, I would call them a herb. So herb, whereas when I talk, exactly, so it's he's a huge herb. Whereas the thing that grows naturally in the ground, parsley, is an herb. Right. So is marijuana.
Was parsley the one that...
No, parsley has always been legal. Cilantro has always been legal, even though I disagree. It shouldn't be.
Cilantro is the worst.
Oh my god, it ruins everything. Every time I go to Chipotle.
Why is marijuana should be fine? Cilantro, not fine.
Well, at least have regulations on cilantro. You can't just put it anywhere willy-nilly. It has to be listed. And I want to know the exact dosage, too.
Disgusting.
People out there are putting cilantro in everything.
It ruins food.
Yes.
I mean, it's like morning breath. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, fuck. But then when I go and eat and it has cilantro in it, I'm like, it smells like my morning breath.
For me, it's more I don't know, it's I'm chewing on metal. That's not the right word, it's just terrible. But yes, so the herb in question, it wasn't parsley, it wasn't cilantro, it was marijuana.
Yeah.
And this idea that, there are a lot of people, especially people my age, it's this sense, what is the government doing, what does it matter? Because for my parents, they pay property taxes. It's very obvious what the government does for them. They send their kids to public school. They can feel the government in a million ways. I don't pay property taxes. I don't there's so many things where it's how do I feel the government? But in the example of Colorado, that is a direct change where you can literally just walk into a store to smoke pot because of voting. And it's like, oh shit, well, you don't walk into the store to smoke pot. You walk into the store, you buy the pot, then you go home and you smoke the pot.
Right.
But this happened because of voting. This didn't happen because it just magically, we all prayed and it happened. Not to say prayer's bad, but it's not like we all prayed and it happened. It happened because people worked and voted. And that's a direct change. And
now, how did that vote become a vote to begin with? How did they even say, we'll let the people decide?
All right. So for the non-Americans here in America, in the United States of America, we have a federal government in Washington D.C. But as you listen to our title, the United States of America, most powers belong in each state, each province of sorts. And we have 50 states. So each state has its own set of rules for how you can change rules. And in the state of Colorado, the western states have more of a direct democracy, which means you can vote on more things. So a bunch of people signed petitions to get marijuana legalization on the ballot. So then once that happened, they were able to directly vote on that, which is something that you cannot actually do in the state of New York. There's no way for the people to petition something like that to be on a ballot. So in California, Colorado, you can. In New York, we do get to vote directly on certain things, but it wouldn't necessarily. So I guess we got to vote 2 years ago on whether or not we want to have gambling in upstate New York. And that was something we voted on. But that happened because our legislators put that on the ballot to a vote. Whereas in California or Colorado, if you want to vote on something, all you need is, 50,000 signatures. I don't know if that's the right number or not, but you just need signatures.
One thing I'm hearing a lot recently, specifically since the election, is staying woke. And that's what I call the title of this video. Those of you just joining us, we're talking about politics, specifically American politics. So if you have any questions about American politics, please ask us. We've got Aaron here from HeadCount, which is an organization which registers people to vote, but that's not all.
Well, yeah, so we register people to vote. We view ourselves kind of as the organizing arm of the live music community. So essentially, it's if you're a band, if you're an artist, if you have an idea about something, if you want to kind of go out there and make a difference, make change and stuff, you can kind of, and you're a nonprofit, you don't necessarily know the music world, or you're a music group and you don't really know the nonprofit world, we want to help this happen. So we do this thing called Participation Row, where we organize nonprofits at festivals across the country. So it's the festival had the music, they had the vendors, they have the food. Why not have the good? So we go. So it's in between sets that you don't let's say your favorite artist played at noon and your next favorite artist is playing at 6. What are you going to do from 2 to 6? You're going to visit all these nonprofits and take actions. So you'll be able to do all these good things. Let's say you're a 20-year-old going to your first festival. You do all this stuff. You leave. Your parents are like, "What'd you do at the festival?" It's like, I signed a bunch of petitions to protect water. If I'm that parent, I'm like, go to more festivals, son.
Right.
And then you don't talk about what you did from the hours of 8 p.m. to 7 a.m.
So now you go to music festivals to get people engaged with politics.
Exactly.
Why music, and what influence do you think music has on politics?
Well, I think why music is because we were there already. And the idea is that, so our founders, one of them's the bassist for the Disco Biscuits, a rock band, and then our other co-founder is his buddy, and they were going to 200 shows a year. Why not bring a clipboard and help people already there? So that's really why HeadCount chose music. But back to your other question about the power of music, and that's a really interesting question. And it's, if you look at kind of all movements, all political movements, I've heard people say they all have a soundtrack, and I think music is an intensely emotional experience. Just listening to it, I think, if you the fact that now we can just plug into an iPhone and listen to music is incredible. Think about it. From the first 2,000 years of Western civilization or whatever, there was a monopoly on music, and it was controlled by the church. And think about it, you never hear music, and then once a week you go to this big cathedral and you hear an organ, and it really like transfixes you and controls you. And then so that was one way that music was used kind of politically, and that's through the church forever. And then with folks like Beethoven and growing out, it's kind of like music now exists in other spaces, and then you get to kind of pop music, and you get to the 20th century, you get to jazz, which was kind of a throwing away. It's improvisational. It's throwing away the idea that everything needs to be scripted and written ahead of time, and it's fighting back against the systems that you don't like, and it's your parents like this, your parents like that. But my music choices are going to rebel against my parents. Actually, mine don't.
What is your favorite band?
My favorite band, I would say...
To listen to and then to see live.
My favorite band to see live is 100% the band Fish. So they're a very American band. They toured Europe once, they toured Japan a couple times. Apparently the rest of the world didn't like them. But they improvise a lot. Other favorite bands of mine are the Grateful Dead. I'm trying to think. I also have a soft spot for American pop country music. So like Carrie Underwood, is that a name that means anything? I love Carrie. So she has all these songs.
If you've seen Pitch Perfect, it means a lot. I do like Carrie Underwood.
Carrie has all these songs about like really angry women killing like bad men, and it's exciting. It's like Two Black Cadillacs is a song about a woman who like finds out that like her husband has like a second family, and obviously the second family finds out that he has a first family. So then the women conspire to kill him. And then there's another one that came out recently called Church Bells, where like a woman poisons her husband's whiskey. And then there's Before He Cheats, which is a very famous Carrie Underwood song where he's cheating on her, and all she does is scratch up his car.
That's my favorite song, my favorite Carrie Underwood song, and she is awesome. She's amazing. Morty has used the super chat feature, so we will address you. He has said, say mirror. Mirror and motherfucker.
There's so many ways to say it. Like this motherfucker. Like if I'm really angry, I'll pronounce the R at the end of motherfucker. If I'm like, if I'm like joking about it, it's like this motherfucker. Like this motherfucker. Really? But like if I'm angry, you know it because I pronounce the R in motherfucker.
If I really like you, I'll call you fucker.
Yeah.
I'll use the worst words to describe my best friends. That's kind of how we roll.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you really like somebody, call them a motherfucker. No.
Would you like to have my hairdo?
No. I have a very ugly head. I don't know.
It all depends on the symmetry.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like a round
I do have
head.
Okay.
It's a good shape head.
I have shaved my head in the past. Not recently. I don't think I want Ally's hairdo yet. Well, I mean, inevitably we all have that hairdo. It's
like we were separated at birth and we had very different hairstyle choices in life. You know what? So Saif has given us 4 words to pronounce.
Ooh.
Let's see what. First word, I would say thread.
Thread.
Next word, tread.
Tread.
Threat.
Threat.
Treat.
Treat. Wow. 4 in a row.
Look at that.
It's never going to happen again.
But I understand for you, as an ESL student, it can be more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
To distinguish between those words, and I have hiccups now.
Oh, yeah, as you guys all know, English is like the stupidest language. I mean, so it's like, no, it's every other language, like, developed from one language. But it's like, our language happened when, like, the Germans and the French fucked, or married or whatever in England, in a little island, and then like there were these people there already.
Just say what it is.
Well, I guess I don't think there's much of a Welsh influence on English or Scottish or Irish or Gaelic, but it's German and it's French. And what I was taught when I studied Latin in high school was that in English the French, so for an animal, so it's when it's living it's a cow, but when you eat it it's beef.
Right.
So what I was taught was cow was the German, was the Anglo-Saxon word, which was essentially, so when it's filthy in the field, you call it by that. But boeuf, is the French word. So when you eat it, I don't want to eat the dirty, like, Anglo words. I want to eat the beautiful Romance language, the beautiful Latin word. Oh. So that was something I was taught. I don't know how true. It's a great story, whether or not it's true.
we're going to fact check that, and that sounds like a video that could make.
That does sound like a video.
That sounds like a great one. Sounds like a really, really good one.
So that's why our words repeat so much.
So, one more question, and then going to shift to another political thing. Can you pronounce throughout? I would say throughout. Thank you, Nicholas Fisher. How would you?
I would say throughout as well. That's an
You kind of
word.
do the glottal T anyway. Like
Throughout.
Yeah. So, I could say throughout, and drop that end T as a glottal stop. You do that too.
Throughout?
Throughout. Yeah.
Throughout. Like, I wouldn't say throughout.
So Americans do have a glottal stop.
Yes. It might just be me as a New Yorker, though. I don't know.
Would you ever say throughout?
Maybe if it's in the middle of the sentence. Maybe if it's... I don't know. Like, I looked throughout the building. Throughout the building. I don't know. Throughout. I have no clue. That's interesting.
For example, bottle. How would you say bottle?
I would say bottle. So that's
Bottle.
dentalized tea. That's a
Yeah.
dentalized tea, which is a
like a
New
dent.
York thing. Actually, so when my great aunt in New York tried to become a teacher, back in the day you had to take pronunciation tests to make sure you weren't teaching the children of New York how to say butter and water, the dentalized tea, and bottle. And she actually failed. My great aunt failed. My grandmother, I don't know if she came in after the test came out, but she passed. Either she passed the test, she was a teacher. My great aunt was not able to be a teacher because I believe she failed the test about the pronunciation test, which was also a way to kind of keep down the poor people. Because rich people in America always pronounce words correctly. But working class people like immigrants, poor people did not. So this was a great system to screw over the poor. And it's the only example in American history of one of those.
But it also produces some great pronunciation.
Oh, yeah.
Some I'm a big fan of. Okay, so the title of today's thing, I called it "Staying Woke," and it's a phrase I've heard many times since I got to New York. And I was here during the election. I was here for the day before the election, the day after the election, and it was a very different New York on both days. One thing I'm hearing now is stay woke. Staying woke, you should be woke. What does to be woke mean?
So stay woke is, and woke specifically is a phrase that started kind of in the black community, and it kind of filtered through that. And the idea of being woke is to be aware that, at least the original definition is to be aware that there are systems in place in America that kind of screw over black people. And it's like being aware of what the world is and being aware of intersectionality in the way women and the way minorities in America and immigrants and Muslims and just various groups are treated differently. And it's to be woke is to kind of wake up and look, because if we're all in this dream trance-like state, it's easy to think my life is fine, I go to work every day, I have all the clothes I need, I eat well, I party, I have friends, I get laid, it's good. But to be woke is to kind of wake up and realize my life might be fine, but there are things greater than this around me. Right. And being woke is kind of an awareness of what's going on. And I think people say that they hate politics, but right now Americans are paying a lot of attention. Like, not all of us vote, but like the ones of us who do vote are like really watching what's happening right now, and it's really exciting.
It's an interesting time for politics in general, but especially in the US. Mm-hmm. When Brexit happened in England, we thought, okay, well, we've just done something really stupid. America won't do that in November. I understand that people watching are going to have different opinions. However, I'm from London. That was what the popular opinion was in London. However, when Trump happened, we thought, okay, well, you guys also made a terrible decision. However, now in France, you've got a similar populist, is the word?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I guess in France, well, in Marine Le Pen, you can really go a little farther. Marine Le Pen, you can go farther than with Trump. I mean, because at the end of the day, Marine Le Pen is the daughter of a Nazi. And she is an actual Nazi. Marie Le Pen, her father, who started this movement, was a Vichyite. a supporter of the Vichy regime his whole life. And essentially, he was... So there might be slight differences between a Vichyite and a Nazi. There might be some historians here who can explain the difference. But...
French people hate Marine Le Pen, don't worry, Elise Pitt says.
All right, well... A lot of American people hate Donald Trump, but yeah. So it's Le Pen. Her movement started. Her father is a Nazi. She has pushed back on some of her father's worst rhetoric, but she also like occasionally says really weird things and like anti-Semitic things. But irrelevant to that, it's yeah. So I mean, I think if you're worried about the rise of the far right, of the Donald Trumps, of the Brexits, of the Dutertes in the Philippines, you should be paying attention and worried about Le Pen in France. I mean, I think what we've seen this year is that they're essentially that if you're doing well in life, if your life is fine, or not even that, if you're living in a cosmopolitan city with you eat Thai, you live in America, you eat Thai food, you have all this diversity around you, you have job opportunities. You're living in a very different world than somebody a 10-hour drive away from you who lives in a town that once was all white, doesn't traditionally host immigrants. Now you're seeing a bunch of immigrants move in, and the jobs that you had at the factory doesn't exist anymore. The jobs at the factory don't exist anymore. And it's what we've seen is that there's this gulf, this gap between what the richest and the smartest, the writers, the intelligentsia, so to speak, see and realize, and what the people are feeling. And it's not necessarily a right-left thing, because at least in America, we have right-thinking intellectuals who are just as blown away by the growth of Trump as the left-leaning intellectuals. And it's essentially, the real thing is, if you live in Washington, D.C., you don't leave Washington, D.C., you don't get what's going on in this country. You don't get that people in America, in the United States that is, you don't get that people are upset and that people are angry and that people really have this sense of almost hopelessness. And I think that there are many ways. I think I once read somebody who described like there are different moods. It's like of a country: hope, fear, hopelessness, and like that. And I think in America we have it's split where there's incredible hope in a lot of places, but if you go to other places, there's this just almost sense of defeat, that we don't need change. We don't need changes. They just want to go back to like the stable life that they had 50 years ago, which is imagined, because everything that happened 20 minutes ago is better than when it actually happened. Like, I made some great jokes earlier.
You did? It's true. Someone's asking, are there a lot of protests in New York right now? I've seen a few. In the last week, I've seen a few.
At the moment, there are, I don't know if there are protests right now, it's pretty early, but there are a lot of protests.
What was the last one that you saw?
So I guess a bunch of people are asking about PC and politically correct language.
And that's an interesting one.
That's really funny. So PC is kind of a way that people kind of attack things. And
before we go on, PC, politically correct.
And politically correct means non-offensive. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess, like a simple example is the word retard is a word that is not politically correct. So there's certain people who have illnesses or whatever, mental illnesses, and what we would now say is they're mentally challenged or they're mentally handicapped. But 20 years ago, growing up, I would say that's retarded. Nowadays, you're not supposed to say retarded because retarded is mean and offensive. What is very interesting about politically correct language and the origins of politically correct is it stemmed in the 1930s from the communists. So the idea is that so it was the liberals making fun of their communist friends with the idea that, is that language politically correct? Is that opinion politically correct? Because if you were a communist, a socialist in New York City in 1935 or in 1925, you still might have been taking your lead from Moscow. So essentially, if something, and Leningrad, and so essentially it's, if something was not, if this was an opinion that the political commissars in Moscow didn't believe, then this was a politically incorrect opinion. We have forgotten, at least in America, that politically correct once was a slur. So nowadays, you aim to be politically correct. Donald Trump is not politically correct. And it is funny where I would say I try not to call people retards. I try to be politically correct. But once in a while, I have an opinion that might not jibe with the majority of the people who declare whether or not something's politically correct. And in that moment, I am not politically correct. And theoretically, I might be uncomfortable with that until I remember, well, like, sorry, I don't march in lockstep with what the only acceptable position I can hold on this issue.
Right.
And I think an example of that might be my personal view on guns. I think in America we have a lot of guns and a lot of people get shot by guns. But I believe that the left in America's solution for guns is ludicrous. It's putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Yeah, it looks good and you feel good doing it, but how are we really going to stop anything and really change anything? And I feel like the left wastes all this energy talking about these tiny, tiny fixes on guns. And once again, this is my personal opinion. Whereas there are all these other things they could focus on. But if I were to, I don't know, go on a date and tell somebody, oh, I'm not that worried about guns, and if she were to be a liberal, her mouth might open and she might be aghast at my disgusting backwards opinion.
Yeah. It's now it seems like it's now not becoming an insult. I can't say that, but it is picked up on a lot of, especially in political talk shows, on the news, when people talk about, oh, everyone's trying to be politically correct, and political correctness gone mad is a very popular term in England. It's ridiculous, but it is kind of changing, I think.
Yeah.
Do you want to check to see if see any Facebook questions that we might have missed? We'll check to see if we've got any.
Well, here's a question from Brian Stollery. He has a question for Aaron. How are you so goddamn sexy? I mean, really, what is your secret? Please share.
Conditioner?
Live life. I do use conditioner. This is a secret. I wash my hair once a month. Literally wet it once a month. I think our natural oils.
It feels clean.
Exactly.
It doesn't feel greasy.
It doesn't smell particular. It doesn't smell bad, but it doesn't smell fresh. Let me see if there are other questions.
I'll answer some from here while you're looking from there. Okay, Yeroshev is asking PC as in from South Park. Yes, there was a character called PC Principal.
Which is a play on words, because principal describes both the head of a high school, the headmaster of a high school, and principal, Princiciple. Principal is the headmaster. Principal is an idea, is a concept, and it was interesting. South Park is a show that offended people for years, and in the last 2 or 3 years, it seems like they've stepped back. And by putting in PC Principal, the principle of PC, they were able to kind of mock PC while also towing the line, and they're really smart. And they have interesting political views. I would say in America, South Park, they wouldn't align with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, but more the libertarians. The idea that they don't want the government or they don't want any individuals kind of tampering with their lives. And I think many, including men of my generation, of our generation, so much of their political views were learnt through South Park. And it was this fundamental distrust of government is what South Park preaches.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of South Park. I love it. And Paulina saying, yes, there were protests on Monday, not my President's Day. I didn't go to that one. I wanted to, but I didn't. Did you go to that one?
No, I was in Los Angeles. And
you
in
were
Los
not
Angeles,
out of town.
people don't protest.
Yeah.
It's sunny. They're movies. Why would you protest when it's... No, there are people who protest in Los Angeles, but like most people, it was like in the way in New York, people might ask, will Donald Trump get impeached? In Los Angeles, they'll ask, how many Oscars will La La Land win? And like people get heated. It's because it really matters. It's their business.
That ties into the next question. A very interesting question I've just seen is Andre wants a few words about Calexit, which I assume you're referring to California. like Brexit, but for California, because Californians overwhelmingly disagree with Trump. And am I right?
Yeah, well, so it's California voted, I don't know the exact numbers, I believe California was one of the states that was very solidly against Trump, which means about 60 to 65% of the people there voted against him.
And
which
basically they want to...
Well, people are joking about it, but, like, that's how Brexit started. People are, like, joking, like, let's get out of America, which is something that Texas threatens when Democrats win. So Texas, because Texas actually was an independent country for like 4 years or something, between the Mexican-American War and Texas joining the United States. And like California is like, we're the world's biggest economy, we can do this. That being said, if they were to, so they might vote on it, which to me is kind of terrifying in a certain way. I don't know, but mainly
likelihood
because
of that happening. What are the chances?
I mean, the likelihood of them voting on it. I think they're going to vote on it. I think they're going. I would be shocked. I think they're Yes, I mean, yes, I think there will be a serious vote on Clexit, and I actually do think there's a chance that enough people that people might vote for Clexit. I mean, in practice, what does this mean? I don't know, because we do have a history in America. We have an example of exactly what happens if a state decides we're done with this union. It led to the bloodiest war in our country's history, and they got in the South, the states that seceded got decimated. The federal government's army is too strong for any state militias, and essentially, if California were to exit, I believe we would have an internal civil war.
Ooh.
I mean, not a civil war. I think my guess is the federal government would be able to, federal troops would be able to defeat California militias or whatever rebels band up in a month.
But isn't it just that it's mainly the tech companies that really want to separate?
Well, the tech companies don't want any governments. The tech companies, for the most part, feel like they should, like that innovation can govern. So I do think tech companies are a lot of people in the tech world are pushing this idea, but it's more than just tech. It's this sense of if we're not connected, if our opinions don't matter in the rest of our country, why not form our own country? Which actually makes more sense than Brexit, where it's, I guess, theoretically there's the EU's deciding everything, but like most of the laws are made by England, by the UK. Whereas in California, I'd say California gets to decide most of their rules, like marijuana's legal there now, even though technically it isn't federally. But there are a lot of things that are covered by the federal government. I don't know.
It does seem like a very different place between California and New York, especially. Okay, so let's do someone saying you smoke too much pot.
What are you my mom? Is that my mom though? I can't read. No, that's not my mom. Okay, I'm not worried.
I think so. What do I think of Brexit? It was a stupid mistake, and we shouldn't have done it. And the people who did want it don't want what we're going to be left with. So I think that's a good place to end it. We're at an hour. So thank you guys very much for watching. I've been Aly, and with me, my very special guest, Aaron from HeadCount. Thank you very much for your questions. They were super interesting. I learned a lot. Hope you guys did too about American politics. Remember, every Sunday at 3:30 p.m. London time, we always do a live English lesson where we'll cover more grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary. But for today, from me and from Aaron, see you guys later. This was lovely.